Good morning and welcome to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from Facebook today, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing digital banking and joint accounts. How do they work with Heather Alexis-Martin? She currently holds the position of branch manager of the Port of Spain location of JMMB Bank. She has been in the financial sector for over 30 years and has experienced skills in operations, retail, and commercial banking, and of course, business planning. She remains passionate about client experience and always has a client's best interest at heart. And before we went live, I was like, now I know who the manager is. I'm going to walk in and be like, where's Heather? And on that note, where's Heather? Bring her in.
Good morning. Good morning, Paula. Thank you for having me.
Great. So we're going to get into it because a lot of people think that it is, a long time, 60 minutes. But when it comes to money and banking, there's so many questions, which, by the way, if you're watching this, even on the replay, we come back and check your questions and we'll answer it. But you also have access to Heather for the next 50 something minutes, right? So
Great.
let's get into, what is a joint bank account? Let's start simple. Let's start there.
Okay, so a joint bank account, basically, it's two individuals who decide to open a savings account. We have different types of savings account, but basically, it's an account where the two parties agree to have this account, put in monies at any point in time, and have access to it or individually at any point in time.
All right, great. So who are basically the top individuals who would you say, based on your experience, would seek a joint account?
So you have spouses, people who are deciding to start a life together, probably want to save towards a wedding or an event. We have people who may be living together, could be a brother and sister, could be two people who decide to save money to go on a trip, or even if you're into some non-registered business, let's just say, I just want to use loosely, maybe somebody who may be selling cookies or cakes and they're just starting up, you and your girlfriend, they decide to pool your funds together or want to have access to an account where they can put the money in and be able to have access to it easily.
So it doesn't have to be, how some situations you have to have the same last name, you have to show proof of the fact that you're family. So it doesn't matter what your relationship with that person is.
Correct. No, could be anyone. Once you decide, when you make that decision to open a joint account with someone, know very well that you are really committing to giving the person access to those same funds that you may be putting in on an individual basis, or if it's on a collective basis, you all are doing something, you totally agree and trust this person to have this account with them.
Hmm. I feel like this is gonna be some therapy session because I'm getting some memories back on when I started my business back in the day, and I had a partner and he took out money without my knowledge. So when it comes to accessing the actual funds, are
Mhm.
there things in place where you can say, okay, nobody could take this amount of money without two signatures? Everybody can have access to it. Is there sort of tiers or levels to where you can open this joint bank account?
So a basic joint account does not carry any levels or tiers. It's a savings account. So the two persons have equal rights to the account, to the money. When you go into tiers as to who can have access to what and how much one person can have access, those fall under when the business is registered. So it could be like a limited liability company, a partnership, even a sole trader who may give someone authority to have access to the accounts. But in the truest form, a joint account as it is, each individual has the same access to that account. So unless you decide to register whatever it is you're getting involved on a legal basis, even like a society, club, anything like that, those are the type of accounts that will carry the different tiers as to how much who could access what, who could take out, who could deposit, those sort of things. But a true joint account, it's 100% equal opportunity for both parties involved.
And Desiree's in the comments saying a joint bank account is the worst thing to have with an untrustworthy person. And, it's interesting because you don't start something thinking somebody is going to be untrustworthy. So
Correct.
if someone's thinking about this and they're watching this and going, what would you say maybe is the top 1 to 3 questions one should ask oneself before going into opening a joint bank account with somebody?
It's a great question. So one of the things I would ask myself is, can I walk away from this money? Am I comfortable knowing that this person can take the 100,000 that I am putting in as part of this venture and feel comfortable with it? Do I know where to find this person? Do I have enough background or information on this person to trust this person at this level? And what I'm getting to do, is it legal? Is it something that could fall back on me if there's any sort of repercussion that could happen that coming out of this? So you don't go and open a joint account with someone who says, "Hey, I will give you back 10,000 in 5 weeks if you just put $100 every day." No, you don't do that.
I have a feeling that a lot of stuff is falling into someone's garden this morning, but we're just here to educate people. We're just here to educate.
Right.
So, we think about this idea. Maybe you have, you mentioned earlier going to traveling and you're not too sure um in terms of like, okay, these are expensive, you're going to put it in joint account. Why would someone do that versus just saying, okay, let's just pay for everything separately and everybody manage your own finances? Why would someone opt into doing a joint bank account instead?
Well, again, it had to be the intent of the person. So maybe for some reason they figure, because you get one bank card, you get both bank cards, two bank cards where you probably have access to a little wider limit. So you, because you both of you have a card on the account, but to open a joint account with someone, it just makes it probably easier for tracking purposes. Maybe whatever you're getting into, you can always now say, well, okay, this is what I've put in, or this came from the sale of this. So maybe just for tracking purposes, somebody may think of it might be a better option for them to open a joint account as to hold the cash at home, or say, well, I have this amount of money. So everybody brings to the table what they need to bring to the table, and it's open and it's in an account that it's transparent that you can always view at any time.
Okay, great. Let's talk about the access because you mentioned cards. So is it that you have an option to have a joint account,
Hmm.
check-ins or savings?
You do. We tend not, well, when you, if you open a checking account, there's a different area that we will go into. In terms of the checking account, well, firstly, rarely people take checks right now. So that's kind of like a taboo in the bank, unless it's a business account. But for personal joint checking account, it's not something that we would encourage because it's kind of hard to keep track of who writes what check. But on the access, you could do online. We have internet banking, as well as they have the bank cards that they can have access to the funds.
It's so funny you say checking is taboo, checks are taboo because I recently opened a business account and they're like, yeah, this is, these are the checks. I'm like, nope, keep that, please. Because then I also have to have the
Right.
responsibility of, maintaining that. And I'm gonna be honest, this is why I do these series so I can learn about money because I really don't like to manage it. So when it comes to the card side of things and accessing it, I think that's a really good point where you mentioned, each individual will have access to the funds via card because obviously it's convenient as well. But when
Hmm.
it comes to the amount of people on this account, is it limited to two persons?
Yes, for the joint account, two people. I think anything outside of that will now have to be classified as a society, a club, or a non-profit organization, and we would ask you to go and get registered. So you'd fall under that chapter. So it'll be a different gamut. So that's where you can put in the regulations to the levels of lines of people who may want to access or deposit a certain amount. But we wouldn't have two and three and four people on a joint account. Like the name dictates, a joint, it's two people.
That's good. So when it comes to, we spoke about checks, we spoke about cards. What about access to online? So once you've both signed up for this joint account, is it a case of there's dual access and both individuals can see the same thing when they are online?
Correct. So the same authorization they would have if they walk into the bank and they need to get funds is the same access they have online. They can transfer to local banks if they have to do wires. They can transfer to their own personal account, but of course the other person will see as well. They have the same level of access.
And, we have individuals who, maybe planning their big nuptials and they're saying, okay, let's do a joint account. Would they, as unmarried couple, be able to that? I know we covered this earlier, but just in case of folks who are joining us now, if you are in a position where you don't have the same last name, would you be able to open a joint bank account?
Yes, definitely. And that communication has to be clear when you come in to open the account because some people will want to open an account and instead of doing a gift registry, may say, you can go come and deposit to, Jack and Jill account as if as your contribution for the wedding. Once we know that these funds will be coming in because somebody else may be coming in to deposit, and these funds are to the purpose of a wedding, it's something that we will have on file to make it easier and it wouldn't cause any concerns as to why people are making deposits. But definitely, once it's something that declared and we know, okay, for the next 12 months, this is our wedding account. These are deposits and the flows that are expected in. Once it's carefully documented and stated upfront, we have no issues with that.
Okay, so can you expand on that a bit? Because, love has a tendency to cloud all decisions. So I've heard. And when it comes to opening this bank account, you're thinking, okay, I'm just going to do this for a wedding and let everybody know to deposit this because it don't make sense giving us gifts. We want to be able to save to our future. What you're saying is you actually have to share this information with the bank?
You should, because you don't want to now get into any sort of compliance issues where we would want to know, well, why is Jennifer coming into deposit to Jack and Jill account, let's say $500, and then we're seeing John coming in to deposit another $500. We want to make sure that because with everything that is happening right now in the environment in terms of different schemes and scams, you're hearing about romance fraud and all these sort of different things that is happening, that it's something that is stated up front and we are aware of what is happening and what is the purpose of the account.
Okay, so I think we definitely need for you to expand on the fraud conversation because a lot of the times, I mean, I could be
Yeah.
guilty sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, why you want all this information?
Yeah.
Everybody's talking, you want everything, you want my DNA testing. So can you
Yeah.
expand on why it's important to share that with the bank?
Yeah. Yes, because like I mentioned, right now what you're seeing happening is people will open accounts and they may tell you to come in and I have a present for you, just deposit $3,000, and next thing you know somebody's coming in and say, well, this person sent me this number, look, I have his WhatsApp profile pic, they tell me, and they get caught up in all sort of things. And then we know when we look at our records, the person may have opened the account to get their salary coming in, and they may state their salary is, let's say, $5,000, but you're seeing all sort of 10,000, $100, different tiers of deposits coming in that is not in line with the activity that you declared was the purpose of the account, and that is a red flag for the banks.
Yes, Desiree is in the comments. She's like at romance fraud or LOL. We did cover that actually
Okay.
in previous sessions with the Bankers Association and Trinidad and Tobago. This Bat Live show, we actually had a discussion around social engineering. So it's
Mm,
very interesting to hear that because I didn't really connect the dots from a joint bank perspective. So
yeah.
that's very interesting. So we're gonna go on a quick break, but when we get back, we want to find out what information does a bank need in order to open that joint bank account. And don't worry, it's not your DNA testing; it's just to prevent fraud. Okay, we'll be right back. Good morning and welcome back to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing digital banking and joint accounts and how do they work with Heather Alexis-Martin. If you're joining us from YouTube, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. Shout out to Anil on YouTube. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us again this morning. So we're going to bring Heather back in. She is joining us as the current holder of the position of branch manager of the Port of Spain branch of JMMB Bank Limited in Trinidad and Tobago. And with over 30 years in the financial sector, we have much to learn from Heather. So today we want to find out what exactly do we need to open that joint bank account.
So you need one form of national identification, ID card, DP, um, one utility bill in your name, has to be 3 months old, and utility bill meaning not an internet, not a cell bill, has to be telephone, electricity, water, a recent payslip or a job letter. The payslip must be stamped though if you're using the payslip alone, because we either take a job letter or a payslip. And the minimum opening account requirement is $250.
Okay, thank you for that. And when it comes to the joint opening of the account, each person has to have these things, or one person can have it.
Each person has to have it. And I'm seeing a comment from Desiree, just to address it because it forms part of the conversation. She's asking why haven't legal financial bodies seen it fit to have a tier for dual signatories on a basic joint account? The reason being, in the past, you would find banks would give you the options to have a joint account where both parties have to sign. That has become very administrative because if one party dies, that money just gets locked up in legality. If the person doesn't have a will, so it's not an automatic thing. If the other party didn't have a will, and now the estate will have to file for their legal documents for us to access the money. But because once it's earned, so that's why we don't encourage people to have a joint account that is earned. If you come into us and say, well, I want to have a joint account, but I want both of us to sign, we will advise, we will then listen. What is the purpose of this account? Because having an account where both parties have to sign, if anything happens to one party, the other party does not have access to the money immediately.
And let's expound on that from the legal aspects when it comes to, yes, Desiree, she realized she wasn't sure, she didn't think about that. But from a legal perspective, we don't have a future ball to know what's gonna happen. So in
Correct.
the event that, someone is in a coma, something has happened to that person, what's actually going to happen to that money, because you've both decided this is something that's going to happen. So just kind of share a little bit more on that, please.
Correct. And we've seen it happen on many, and during my lifespan in a FI, in other FIs, I've seen it happen where, you have an account with, and the person passes, and for some reason, the estate or the other party, whoever is the next of kin, will come in and say, well, okay, she was on your account with John. Why I can't get the money? And John is like, well, the money in there now is my money, and the estate now is, and it's be a whole legal battle. So that's why having or taking the decision to have a joint account, like I said, you have to make sure again that you trust the person. You're willing to walk away from that money if anything was to happen. If you wake up one morning and come into the bank and see the money gone, you'll be like, okay. Other than that, when you're opening the account, we will inquire as to what is the nature of the account, especially if you want to put it on, and we will guide you accordingly to perhaps maybe these are the options you should take, because this is what could happen if you haven't thought about it. In terms of death or sickness, the account gets locked down and there's no access to anyone. So it's not beneficial to anyone at that time.
Is, oh, my internet is, can you hear me? My internet was giving trouble just
I'm
now.
hearing you.
Yeah. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the actual reasons behind opening a joint account, you've have this wealth of experience, couple decades. What would you say is the top three most popular reasons people open a joint account?
They open a joint account. The reason to save towards some events. Like we see people, they would come, they would open for carnival to have a little 12 months, to open for carnival account, or if it's for a trip or for weddings. There are different reasons that people will decide to open a joint account. But like I said, the myth about it is that they feel that they can come in and make a claim if the other party takes out all the money. And that's the biggest myth that they have of surrounding a joint account. Just remembering that the person has the same access to the money as you would have. And if one morning they get up upset or the relationship turns sour, whoever reaches to the bank first gets the pot.
Wow. And if someone has done this, they've signed up for it. Also, wow, when people saving money for carnival costumes, it makes sense though. It makes sense. uh 'Cause financially it
Yeah.
makes sense. But what if the person is trustworthy? They think, okay, this is going to be our first time playing carnival together, and then for some reason something happens. Where's the liability on the individual who basically was duped? Because they're gonna come in the bank and go, well, why did you allow this person to take my money?
And then we will pull out the account opening form and show them the clause that they signed to. That would have been properly explained to them, especially if it's two young people or two people who has nothing in common, meaning two friends or no, a mother and a daughter, a mother and a son, they can open on a joint account for whatever reasons. Could be for education. Once the person is of legal age, that is, they can open on a joint account. But it's on the form. It's clearly stated on the form that, the liability, both persons are liable 100% for the account. They have access to the account 100%, and the bank is not liable if one is to come in and access the funds or take out the funds without the other knowing.
And that reminds me of one of the biggest lies on the internet. I've read these terms and conditions. um we tend to want to just get to where we need to get and not necessarily read that. So any advice as to, okay, because some people are going in to open this account, but they don't want to sit down and read this entire thing. Is it that you, as a person in the bank, is going to explain all of these liabilities, and this is what you're signing up for before they sign up for this joint account?
Yes, especially whoever you encounter with coming in, they're going to make sure that you understand what it is. Because I mean, we would know if two people coming in and they want to open an account, and we would speak to them individually. Try to, especially if we think one is being coerced into the other, because you pick up on these things, right? And we would have a conversation and let you know, listen, are you aware that if you are putting in this money and you're making this person join, tomorrow this person can come in? Because we have different cases. People will come in to open a joint account is because they would have agreed outside of the bank, listen, we're going to do this, this is that. That's fine. We have the other case where you may have an account with us and then you want to bring in another party to make them joint on the account. And that's when we will like try to talk to you and say, listen, are you sure? Are you understand by doing this? This person has access to your money 100% by tomorrow. There's nothing we could do or say, it's here on the form. You're signing this. Are you comfortable knowing that, or you trust this person 100% that they can have access to all this money that maybe you would have accumulated over a certain time?
Wow, they say that hairdressers are also therapists, but clearly bankers are also parents, because that is a lot of work. And
Yes.
I can imagine from when you have something in mind and you come in and you say, okay, I'm going to do this, and then somebody tells you, are you sure about this? What are some of the telltale signs, maybe one in particular that you could share with the audience to be like, you know what, maybe this is not the right decision for you to
Yeah.
go into?
Yeah. Well, you would see it, of course, with the age difference. If an elderly person was to come in with somebody who, and they have no relation to them or anything like that. So we've seen where somebody might have a caregiver and, you know, they want to put their caregiver on their account with them because they figure, well, they're taking care of me and if anything happen, um, they can have access to funds for medication and stuff. And some people, they may not have a choice. They may not have any other children or to take care of them, and that's fine. But we, like again, we make sure that you have sound mind and body, and this is what you want to do, and we put them on. They might have a young person who may come with someone who, you know, you may look a little elderly or questionable. It happens to both men and women. Unfortunately, more to women, I will say, and they get swept off their feet. And what at the end of the day, we would have known that, you know, we had the conversation, we made them aware of all what they're signing to on the form, and the fact that it's beyond our control if the money, if anybody was to take out the money.
That must be very difficult, because to see it happening, I can't imagine, because you also don't have the control over what they
No.
decide. For those watching this, you can also check out our conversation with Nicole Anna about the power of attorney, and how from that elderly conversation, things that we need to put in place, because we need to check in on our elderly folks. Sometimes they can frustrate me because they don't know how to type in HTTPS, but it's fine. They've been on this planet long enough for us to be patient with them.
Yes, yes, yes. And
Go ahead.
no, I was thinking those are the ones that are more, you know, susceptible to these sort of having joint accounts or having people come joint on the account with them because they figure, you know, well, nobody else is taking care of me. But when they die, everybody comes out of the woodwork. And then they come into the bank and say, well, how could you have done this? You know, how could you have put Anna on the account with my mom? And we were like, your mom at the time had nobody. And she was agreed. She signed the forms. She's of sound mind and body. It happens almost 9 out of 10 times.
Wow.
Mhm.
Desiree asked, are there instances where a medically fit document is required to open the joint account?
Yes, but again, we would be guided on the side of caution. If it is we are opening a joint account and the other party is medically unfit and the funds are coming from them, we would consult with our internal legal as well as ensure that have a doctor or, like you said, get a medically fit for them to open the account. But especially if they're bedridden and they
Mm,
can't sign,
yeah.
and
All
somebody
right.
comes in to say, you know, they want to open an account with them, but they can't come to the bank.
Oh, okay. So is it a case of that person will have to have a letter, or they'll come with a doctor's like certificate?
They will, but again, we will be guided by our internal legal. We will probably do a visit. We will have to do a visit to ensure that this person, even though they probably cannot physically come to the bank, they have sound mind and body and are aware of what they're getting into.
Wow. So someone from the bank. So if you come in with this information, you can't just outright open the account. There has
No,
to
no,
be
no,
a
no,
follow
no,
up.
no. We've had cases where someone couldn't physically come into the bank, but they came in the vehicle. We would have gone out, spoken to them, and we did the transaction from the vehicle, um, and opened the account. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So, all right. So, what we're going to do is going to go on a break. And when we come back, I want to expand a little bit on the education side of things where you mentioned about a joint account, because I want to understand age limits and maybe setting goals for your child or someone who may be under your care, so they could understand money and literacy. So, we'll
Sure.
be right back.
Okay.
Hi there, and welcome back to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you join us from LinkedIn, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing digital banking and joint accounts. How do they work with Heather Alexis-Martin? She currently holds the position of branch manager at the Port of Spain location of JMMB Bank. She has been in the financial sector for over 30 years and has experience in operations, retail, commercial banking, and business planning. She remains passionate about client experience, and that's why I assume she's giving us her time freely today. And we're excited to have Heather in. Let's bring her in. Um, and I see that in your spare time, you plan events for friends, birthday parties. Are we gonna get some pro bono work? Like what events?
Very small events, just when we have little themed parties. Very small events, nothing extraordinary or big.
Well, I need to get an invite the next time you have a next client, one at Gem and be Port of Spain branch. I'm just gonna put that out there, you know.
Not a problem, of
All
course.
right. All right. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about joint accounts for the most part, and obviously there's some digital banking in there. Just by where we are today as a society, digital banking has become preference to writing checks. But when it comes to opening that joint account, you mentioned earlier about some reasons why folks would do it. Maybe for an event, a wedding, carnival, as well as education. So
Mm,
if a parent or, I have a lot of friends who are self-appointed aunties and take care of kids. So
right.
what if that person wants to create that financial literacy and build a joint account with that person? What's the age limit? What type of information does that person need to open a joint account?
Right. So we have our youth account, which starts with a parent or guardian who would like to open an account for a child. And it goes from birth to age 18. And we say it's a great way to encourage your child to learn about savings and accumulate interest. So the account will be open joint in the name of the parents and the child. And basically it has to carry a minimum monthly deposit. So that way it also encourages or brings about that financial awareness for the child to save towards a goal, if it is even for university or Form 6, maybe to purchase a laptop. Well, these things are dime a dozen these days, but it also brings creates a habit for them to save, and they have no access. The child, of course, has no access to it, but there's a read only access on our internet banking, because remember, it's a savings account. So the auntie or the parent, if they're putting in $100, and if the child, is doing something out of school extra, selling cookies or something, they can also put that money in there and also build up. When the child reaches 18, it now gets transferred into the child's name.
So that type of account has to be parents, because you could be not necessarily a guardian, but like a godmother, someone who's trying to build something for that child, but you don't have would the parents have to come in to open that account?
Well, basically, the child, we need some form of birth. You will need the birth paper. And for you to have the birth paper, I'm assuming as the guardian or auntie, you would have to interact with the parent. So whether you bring it, so the parent will send a letter stating, I hereby authorize Jane Doe to open an account with so and so, and she would send the ID. They will send the child birth paper, and that's how we will get the account joined with the auntie or godparent.
So that's more along the lines of folks under 18. So
Correct.
what if you are saving for university?
Right. So if you're of legal age and you have your identifications, your driver's permit, we don't need any parent permission. This is for more the ones below the age of 16. I believe you get your driver's permit at 16 or 17.
So you can open a joint account with someone 16 years and over.
Correct.
Okay, all the aunties out there, let's encourage these youths to understand how to manage money, because I
Yeah.
need pension. I need pension, right? So
Yeah.
we've been talking a lot about joint accounts, but when it comes to any context of digital banking,
Mhm.
would we, is there like a change in terms of we're shifting across to this digital space? A lot of us are doing our best to avoid the lines in the bank. So when it comes to joint accounts, a lot of people may not understand that you can do things like an ACH transfer and having access to those funds without having to get in your account and go to the bank. So can you share some of the benefits of joining when you have a joint account, digital banking access?
Sure. So our money line, JMMB money line, it's very real time. You can transfer to another banking establishment, and the money, once it's done before a certain time, 1 o'clock, it will reach the same day. You can also do um, international wires once you have the funds available, or we can access you the funds to transfer abroad, as well as you can even issue a banker's check. You, if you want to do a manager's check to purchase a big item or anything like that, you can do it online and send it to the bank to print, and you can just come in and pick it up. So it's very interactive, and you can even order, if you lost your card and you want to send us a message, you can order that online as well, and it's free of charge. Our online banking.
Okay, I can
Hmm.
attest to that. It's very efficient. Uh, Desiree just wants to identify that you can also get your national ID from age
Age
15. So,
15, right?
so does that mean we can open the bank account then?
Yes, you can.
Okay, awesome. All right, so a lot of people are still transitioning from the space because some folks want to physically see their funds, they want to physically see the cash.
Yeah.
And from a digital banking perspective, what are the benefits when you're opening that joint account for you to access the money line at JMMB?
So the benefits, like I said, you have 24-hour access. It also puts you at ease to getting your money, because coming out of the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, and people were probably were banned from coming out. I mean, nobody would the movement. It was restricted movement. So coming out of that, I think people really have to change. It's a whole paradigm shift that we're working on for people to be more aware of the things they can do. They can also set up their pension checks. Because right now, if we're on a drive, well, all the banks are on a drive for to encourage pensioners to have their money sent directly to their accounts, where they can now go and just access it with their bank card instead of coming into the bank to change their pension check. I mean, today is the first of the month, and I work in Port of Spain, and the lines outside the commercial banks are ridiculous, and it's pensioners. So they just need to fill out a form, get their money, because it's easy for them to access their money, as well as they wouldn't have to come out and be put in the line, standing up there for hours to change a check to get cash. So coming in the bank and opening the account, one time we will give you our Moneyline internet access.
I think I'm going to ask this question on behalf of all millennials. Why are they doing this? Why?
And that's it's just a mind shift. They're set in their ways, and I'm not sure if the ease of the transition is something that is to them, but we really do have to continue just educating and putting it out there of the ease of doing business through these sorts of mediums, because it is beneficial to them. I really don't know, but that's the new way of the world. They're just set in their ways.
So, as you're talking, I was thinking, would it be best for a son or a daughter to open a joint account with their parents in a easy transition for them to do digital banking?
Yes, yes, it would be, because once you set up the account, even at the time you reach at the age where can do everything on your own, automatically we will just give you the access to the online banking. So the ease of that transition will be very easy for you. What is it? Oh,
Wow, Desiree has a very good point here. And I don't know. Maybe we just need to have, you know, how we have so much carnival fets. We need to have fets for the elderly. She's like, I think it's also a need to interact as an elderly.
Yeah, good points. If you go through a day in their life, I mean, even from the phones that they use, they went from push button to touch button. That's a big. I'm speaking from experience here with my own. It's a big. I was like, oh, you know, it is a mind shift.
Wow. Well, you know, maybe this is an opportunity for the banks to hold a little, throw a little party for the elderly.
Maybe your next webinar could be on the elderly.
A little social gathering, you know, and then be like, hey
Mm.
guys, this is how you should do your, you know, online banking.
Uh,
But, you know, we could have a separate area for you all to
area.
line.
Yes, there is a need. And then too, some of them they come into the bank is a social event. It's a social event for them. Where else are they going? Church and bank.
That is interesting. That is very interesting. I mean, it affects me because I'm turning around when I see that line, but
It's a social event. They stand up, they chat. You talk to them, and no, what else? They don't have anything else to do.
wow. Okay. Well, that's a whole other
That's
conversation.
a
So
whole other conversation.
wow, that's very interesting actually.
Mhm.
And you know, when we are looking at this digital banking conversation, I think, you know, saying that we can have a younger generation do a joint account with their parents, this can also be applicable to grandparents. So then, you know, we have to basically value that time and have the patience to teach them. But is
Right.
there any resources that JMMB has that they can also go and check?
Not at the moment. However, any one of our the frontline staff will be well equipped to accommodate. We do have a branch ambassador in each one of the branches that will come in to find out what is the nature of your transaction. And at that point in time, she or he will be able to see how they can assist, if it's something technical or if it's for online, and lend that assistance there.
Okay. So I want to close off the personal joint banking because we're going to talk about the business one afterwards. But what happens, like, let's say after the event has been done, you are saving for your carnival because, you know, Lolo knows that is a pound and a crown, and the carnival is over. What happens when you say, okay, the event is done? How do they close off the joint account?
Either party can come in and say they want the account closed and collect the funds in cash. Both of y'all, either of y'all, it doesn't matter. We don't need a letter of authorization from the other party if you're coming alone, because it's a joint account and both of y'all have the same access to it. It's not required.
So just to reiterate, both people don't have to come into the bank to close your
No,
account.
they don't.
Okay, great. So that's, I'm sure everybody's like, whew, thank goodness. All right.
Correct.
So,
No, no, no.
all right. So we're
Yeah.
going to go on a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to have the discussion around joint business bank account. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you join us from YouTube, thank you so much. Shout out to Geniastic on YouTube. Good morning to you as well. Don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we are discussing digital banking and joint accounts and how do they work with Heather Alexis-Martin. She currently holds the position as branch manager of the Port of Spain branch of JMMB Bank Limited, and she's been in the financial industry for over 30 years and has experience across multiple segments, which is operations, commercial banking, and business planning. She remains passionate about client experience, and we want to drill a little bit about joint bank accounts for business. So let's bring in Heather. And in case you missed earlier on, we covered in length joint bank accounts and digital banking from a personal perspective. But
Mhm.
before we close off, I want to have the conversation around business joint bank accounts. So what's the major difference between just two individuals saying, hey, let's save for an event, let's save for education, versus we actually have a business joint bank account?
Okay, so firstly, we wouldn't term it as a business joint account. It would be a business account because this will be governed under certain legalities under the Companies Act. So you can have a limited liability where two people are in the account as directors and they can designate who could access what, who could withdraw what. So one person may be able to withdraw up to 5,000 or both of them could draw, let's say, up to 5,000 individually. Anything over that has to be signed by both parties. So that's the major difference with having a joint account because they are now under a Companies Act and they have a registered body as a limited liability. You could be a partnership. You can be a sole trader where you may have to, where you can add somebody on to access funds up to a certain amount, or you can be registered as a club, society, lodge under that act. So any signatories or access to funds, any one of those acts, you can now state, listen, I want this. This is how I want it. Anybody can access up to 5,000 or 2,000. Anything over that requires both signatories or whoever is registered under the business.
So to reiterate, it's not a joint account. It's basically an account signed up through the legal aspect of whatever the organization you've built in. So if it's a
Correct.
limited liability, if it's a NGO, it's there, it's signed up through that, and then you then assign who has access
Yes.
to the funds.
Yes. You will give us a letter stating Jack, Jill, these are the people who are the signatories of the account, and this is the amount they're authorized to access. So that would have been discussed at the minutes at a meeting, and it will be documented in the minutes that this is how we want the company to operate, and this is how we want people to be able to access the funds.
So the persons who will have access to the funds of this organization, would they have to be physically there to be able to say, okay, these are people who have access to it?
Yes, they will. Yeah, when they're opening the account, they will have to come in. Because sometimes we have like a business where you and I could be in a business and Jack and Jill could be the signatories because you and I may be out of the country, traveling, doing this, but we would have now empowered Jack and Jill to have access to the account for this amount, etc. And anything over a certain amount could require a signatory from yourself or me to move forward. And it also goes hand in hand with our online banking as well. When the online banking is set up for the business account, it carries the same sign in authority or access as what is done over the counter.
So when it comes to the digital aspect of opening this business account, because you can have someone who can have access to the funds, but not necessarily access to the digital banking on Moneyline at JMMB.
Yes, so they can, well, you can state as the main person under the business account. You can have view and access rights. You can also have rights where you can authorize transactions or start a transaction where you, as the main person, like I said, we can also put limits to what you can access and what you can do under the corporate money line.
And does the bank have to get involved when you give access to these individuals on your online banking?
We we will get in. It has to go in line with whatever is the signing authority that you would have opened the account at that time, because at that point in time we will give you the form for the corporate money line, and we will make sure it's the same access, because it doesn't make sense saying John has only access up to 5,000 but yet on money line he has full access. So that means he could go in and transfer all the funds out or do whatever he wants. So it will go against what was initially set up and how the company was set up.
So the Signing the physical sign up of the account is separate to the digital banking access.
Hmm. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So when it comes to okay, so when we are opening this account, and same goes for the joint accounts, right? Is it a case of you are giving the information to open this physical account, but then you have to have a separate sort of process for accessing the online funds?
No, it's not a separate process. Everything is done at the same time. When you open the account, it all forms part of the form of the account opening documents at that time. So it's like one form you will fill out. Because we try to encourage everybody who we're onboarding to go with the money, to go with the money line, to have it.
So can someone go, well, I am not the most tech savvy. I am going to open this account, but I don't want access online.
They can, but in a month or 2 months, you would find they may call in or ask to come in, or we may see them. You could do this. So it's all about education. We will still sign you up and I tell you and walk through the process. At least you can go on. I just encourage you to just start by just going in to check your balance, because we've moved away from printing statements and that sort of thing. So we encourage you to go in and just to look. We're not asking you to do any transactions. Just go in and make sure that your monies are there, just for your own personal level of comfort. If you don't want to do anything else,
And for someone who has never accessed Moneyline, may have had their JMMB account for, like I was there at the beginning. Um, what say you to them in terms of what is the capabilities of online banking? Can they do everything online?
they can. They can pay their bills. They can, like I said, send money, transfer funds to another financial institution if they need to. If they need to pay for services, whoever they're dealing with will probably say, send me the money online, because we're trying to go with the cashless environment right now. So, and most service providers, small businesses, etc., they would encourage you to transfer the money, because it's easier for them to collate this money and then go into the bank to make a deposit. So we do encourage people to use the online, especially in the environment we live in, because at any point in time we don't know what the if we were could be faced with another shutdown situation, and you need to have access to your funds. You need to be able to pay for certain things and live.
Yeah, I also don't want to be touching money. So, um, like anytime I'm in an out and I was like, anybody have cash? Negatives, not me. Uh,
Right.
so, we've been talking about joint bank accounts and the, correct me in saying it's not a joint business bank account, it's sign up with the entity that you've created. So let's
Correct.
say you've decided, okay, I'm going to start this sports club with a friend, and we're getting donations and we're looking towards building this sports club to help women in sports.
Mhm.
At what point, because it's a lot to invest in, let's say registering that NGO, so would you advise they start with a joint account first before saying, okay, let's see how this goes, and once we have enough interest, we're then going to register it as an NGO?
Right. Yes, you can start with a joint account first. And we do encourage you to formalize or regulate the what you're getting into, but you can start, and we have seen people start with a joint account. Once you declare upfront the purpose of the account and where the funds will be coming from, and and it's a legal entity, it's something legal you're getting into, it's not a problem. But of course, along the way, when you do start to grow, we would encourage you, listen, this is the point where you still need to go and register and regulate your status.
So is there specific requirements that, there comes a point in time where this idea has to be registered?
There's no time frame, but again, with the initial conversation, because from what I understand, it really doesn't take that long to register. If it's 3 months, you know, but over a year, we would say, listen, you need to regulate, because the activity, suppose the business grows and you start to get in these large amounts of money. And then what is going to happen? Like I said, remember with a joint account, you're giving the person 100% access to that funds. So you don't want somewhere down the line, if the business, for some reason, the relationship goes sour, this person now has access to everything that you've accumulated over these past 9 months, and there's no recourse to you.
So how easy is it to shift from a joint bank account to a business entity, a business account?
It's very easy. You just need to bring in your regulated, all your documents that you would have gotten from the company's registry, and we would just transfer the funds.
Okay, so I'm going to put you in the hot seat for a second because we're almost done, and I like to finish with a little spice.
So I've seen. So I've seen.
Don't worry, it's okay, it's okay. Do you think if you're going to give you a magic 8 ball, that it will come a point in time, because this is not a Trinidad specific question, because I actually opened an account in New York and I had to physically go in, like I couldn't open it without physically being there. But do you think it'll come a
Mhm.
point in time where Trinidad will see being able to open a bank account without having to go to a branch?
There will be at we it was something we uh, tried rolled out during the pandemic, but again it will mean changing some of our regulatory requirements, and I'm hoping that we will reach that stage, and but it will take some tweaking to do, especially with the amount of fraud that we have been seeing that came out of the pandemic, unfortunately. So verifying documents and touching and feeling is something that is still very much important until we can work out that aspect, that background aspect of how to avoid people who say they are and really are, as opposed to who are not, and getting funds from sources that we're not clear of.
I
Hope
think
that
you did
answers
really
your
well in
question.
the hot seat, but I want you to just expand what, like, last one, because I feel like a lot of us may not understand from a
Yes.
financial background of your experience. What what the hell is regulatory requirements? What does that even mean? Why should we be adhering to these requirements, and what is it?
So it's funny you asked that. Only this morning I saw that mentioned on a talk show this morning, that it's really to ensure that we're not funding any sort of illegal activities, guns and ammunition, narcotics, or any sort of Ponzi schemes that may be emanating from, not being able to, not for us, have to come in to open an account. I can just send you your documents and just start sending money. So those are the stuff that the banks have to work with, because we're governed under central bank and we have a FIU Act that we are regulated by. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think that we now understand. I think we're much clearer on digital banking and joint accounts. Thank you so much, Heather, for
Mhm.
joining us today and sharing all the insight into information that a lot of us need to know, because, it's great to have this information before you reach the bank. So
Yes.
thanks again, Heather, from JMMB Bank. And for those who are watching, sign up to be notified on our next live show via the link in the comments. And always be sure to like and follow us if you watching us on Facebook. Just smash that follow button, right? And thank you again for joining us, and I'll see you soon. Bye.